Saturday morning. We really appreciate it. Graham Ralston, Chairman and CEO of GTA Sports and Entertainment, and Mayor Frank Scarpetti of Markham. As I said, this is how it's going to go. Both of them are going to give some quick remarks. Then there'll be a short Q&A after. Kind of informal scrum. Thanks very much. Enjoy.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning on a Saturday morning. We believe that it's really important that we communicate with the community as to where we are in this process. Before I go any further, I want to first and foremost thank the residents of the city of Markham who over the past 3 years have spent an amazing amount of time with me at Tim Hortons, at McDonald's, in their homes, anywhere that they've asked me to meet. It's been a real pleasure and it's been a great experience. Along the way, we've made a lot of progress over the last couple of years. I won't go into too much detail here today, but in this particular calendar year, 2013, started off phenomenally with a site plan application being approved in January, a land transfer agreement being accepted by the city in June, and there's been a lot of momentum and a lot of progress that's been made. All of this really has come from the local community, the residents, the associations, the community leaders, the businesses who have given tremendous input over the past couple of years as to what they would like to see, how they would like to see it go, and we've listened extensively. Yesterday was, I think, a pivotal moment in the development of the GTA Center. A committee meeting, subcommittee meeting took place yesterday where all the councillors, all 13 councillors were there and members of the public, and it was very encouraging to hear the different levels of different incredible statements from members of council in support of Mayor Scarpetti and the work that he's done personally over the last year to champion this project. A lot of progress has been made, and it's so encouraging to me to hear the councillors speak in support of the mayor's efforts and their willingness and desire to work with him. And as one councillor put it, the community wants the GTA Center. It's pretty unanimous that they want it. They just want it to be done in a way to protect the taxpayers, and that's what we're all about. That's what we want to do. We want to do that from day one. So after the committee meeting, I had been presented to me an MOU and a memorandum of understanding that was put in front of me, and I executed and signed the MOU yesterday after the committee meeting, and I have now submitted it to Mayor Scarpetti. Yesterday I learned the support of the development community and the work that the mayor has been doing in that area. I'll let him speak to that, but it was so encouraging to hear Mayor Scarpetti's success with the development community and to hear the encouraging statements from the councillors that it prompted me to execute my MOU, and now it's in the hands of the mayor. The next step in this process, obviously, is Monday and Tuesday here in Markham. We've invited the community out to come and speak and discuss and talk about the MOU, and I'm really excited to move forward on this project. And with having said all that, I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Scarpetti, who has championed this project for a long time, from the very beginning, and the amount of tireless effort that he has put in, not only to this project, but into every project I've seen him involved in the community, is pretty impressive. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for all the work that you've done on this, and I hope you accept my signature and we can go forward from there.
To everyone, thank you for coming out on a Saturday morning, and I certainly appreciate you coming to Markham. We always welcome everyone here. Before I start, I'm not going to go through the whole room and introduce everyone because we don't have time for that. We've got a Santa Claus parade that starts in a little while. I don't want to keep Santa Claus waiting. But I just want to acknowledge some of the leaders that we have in our community. Khaled Usman, who is here, and I know that Graham, as he said, has been meeting members of the community, different members of the community, different cultural groups, different business leaders. So I thank Khaled Usman, who's here representing the Muslim community, and appreciate him attending here this morning and the support that he's given to this initiative. Kenny Wan, who's the past president of the Richmond Hill Markham Chinese Business Association. I think this is what I love about Markham. You know, we've got people who have come from all over the world, and they are making their contribution to our city and indeed to our province and to our country. So I thank the association for their support. And Daisy Way as well, who's here. Daisy is someone who actually is involved throughout the community, both with the previous association and other business associations, and a leader in the Chinese community. Excuse me, I'm still trying to get over a cold there. Najmal Siddiqui as well, who is here. Thank you, Najmal, for being here. Dr. Ken Ing, who is the chair of the Federation of Chinese Canadians of Markham. Dr. Ing is no stranger to big events and bringing the community together. His association puts on the largest outdoor Asian festival in all of Canada, the Taste of Asia. So I thank him for being here, and want to recognize Dave Dealey as well from the Markham Board of Trade. They have a strong interest in this particular initiative, because I think they see there'll be tremendous benefits for the business community here in Markham. I also want to take a moment just to recognize Patrick O'Hanlon from Calmore Homes in Angus Glen, and thank him for being here. He is one of our developers here within Markham, and certainly others were invited, but they must be out there selling homes. You've sold all yours, so that's why you can be here this morning.
I need approval.
And I want to recognize one of our councillors, and again, I think concern about having to be at a certain place at a certain start time. Most of council couldn't be here because it's a little tough getting around the main street right now as they prepare for the parade. But I want to acknowledge Councillor Alex Chu, who's here, and thank you, Alex, for being here this morning. I want to thank all of the media for coming up and being a part of this press conference today. And as you heard Graham allude to, and we sat through a couple of hours yesterday to really update our council on the progress that I've been working on with the development community over the past few weeks. And first and foremost, let me tell you, I am excited to have this wonderful opportunity to attract the GTA Centre to our city. It really does fit into everything that we do in the city of Markham. We're leaders in so many different areas, whether it's the planning and the awards that we've won for the incredible communities that we've created here, whether it's the environment, where we're leaders in waste diversion, the highest waste diversion in the country, whether it's our fiscal management. I want to talk about protecting the taxpayer. Let me tell you something. That's something I have dedicated a lot of time during my tenure of the past 25 years sitting on Markham Council, is protecting the taxpayers of our city. I take great pride in the fact that our council and our staff have worked together to deliver 3 years of 0% tax increases, 2 years of 1.5% tax increases, and combined, that is the lowest tax increase in the GTA for the past 5 years. But you know, that says something. But aside from that achievement, we now have the lowest industrial and commercial tax rate in all of the GTA compared to other municipalities. And our fiscal management has been recognized by 2 outstanding organizations in Canada, the C.D. Howe Institute and the Frontier Centre for Policy has recognized Markham as the top municipality for fiscal management and fiscal transparency. And let me tell you something, nothing has changed From day one, when I started talking about attracting the GTA Centre to this city, I've always said we were not going to attract this type of investment and have to raise taxes to do it. So I, the council, everyone has always looked out to make sure that we are protecting the taxpayer, and that's something that I am certainly very proud of. So that hasn't changed from the day one that we started talking about this right up until yesterday. Now, I've always thought we had a good financial framework. It always spoke to, of that $325 million, half of it coming from the private sector. And the other half, the city was facilitating through different mechanisms. And I'm really not going to spend a whole lot of time addressing what all those mechanisms were, because it is complicated. It was complicated. And I think what we've achieved now is a very simplified and something that everyone can understand. The private sector is still contributing 50%. They are now going out and borrowing that money. So certainly some of that risk has been shifted over to the private sector side, because that money will come up front. And so we'll have that half of the cost. The other half, the revenue for the other half is coming from two places. One is the lease of the center and the revenue that comes to the city of Markham for the lease of the center. And that gives us about $32.5 million of revenue. The revenue gives us the capacity to borrow $32.5 million. And the other area that the revenue will come from is really through the generosity, the cooperation, I would say the leadership of what we have here in the city of Markham is an outstanding group of developers who've contributed to so many of the successful things that we see today in our community. You know, we started a number of years ago, the YMCA wanted to come to Markham, and they said they didn't have the money to build a new YMCA. They had a certain pot, but they needed money from our community. In essence, it was the developers that came forward and filled that gap. So we have, I think, one of the best YMCAs in all of North America. The membership just grew dramatically and set a record in North America. We see the Markham Stouffville Hospital expansion. It just opened up in our community. We had to raise $50 million for our share of the Markham Stouffville Hospital. And as the co-chair of that campaign, I've tried to talk to just about everyone to open their wallets and to give to our Markham Stouffville Hospital. But let me tell you something. The foundation of the success of that campaign, the reason that we have the Markham Stouffville Hospital open today is because developers stepped forward and contributed and gave back to this community. And so I'm very proud of it. And so in trying to satisfy some of the concerns, and I think from my perspective, I've been on council for 25 years. I respect that there's sometimes differences of opinion on things. That's just how the way life is. I'm sure there's differences of opinion in your family sometimes about careers, where to live, where to send the kids to school. The list can go on and on. I'm sure even in your businesses, there are differences of opinion about where you want to locate, how fast you're going to grow the business, where you're going to get the financing from the business, what kind of risks are you willing to take. But you know what? You work through those differences. You work through those differences so that you're able to move things ahead, to be a successful family, to be a successful business. And that's really my philosophy. When I work with people in our community, I understand there's differences of opinion. We're human beings. And the question is, how do we deal with those differences of opinion? How do we deal with the concerns that people might have? And so, while I think this has always been, I think, a good deal for Markham, I think in many respects we've tried to deal with the concerns that people have brought forward. I have been listening. And so yesterday we updated council. We've been working with the development community for the past few weeks, and so far we have an MOU that a number of developers have signed in the city of Markham. Not all of them yet, but a number of them. And of the $120 million that we still have to sort out, and I'll walk you through the numbers to give you a little summary as I did yesterday, we now have a commitment from a number of developers in our community of $70 million over the next 20 years.
Wow.
This is an incredible contribution. And so, to give you a bit of the summary of where things sit on our side, we are going to go out to borrow, if council approves this, and all of this all requires council approval at the end of the day. We will go out and borrow $162.5 million. The revenue from the lease of the arena gives us the capacity to borrow $32.5 million. We have collected $10 million through contributions of development, and that leaves $120 million. And as I just indicated, we've now got a number of developers within our community that are going to contribute $70 million. So that leaves us $50 million to go out and to work with others in the development community to close that gap. And I too was very encouraged yesterday listening to our council and listening to their response about the progress that we've made. And I'm glad it was a turning moment for Mr. Rouston, because you know, I stand in amazement sometimes what individuals are willing to endure to see their vision come to reality. And you know what? That's the way life is. Nothing comes easy. If we believe in something, if we want something to happen, we have to work hard. We have to keep going. It doesn't matter what stands in our way. That doesn't mean, again, that we don't respond to concerns. It just means that we have to figure out a way to make this happen. And let me tell you something. I want to make this happen in our city. I want the GTA Centre to be built in our city because I think it would be an amazing addition to our community. So, with that, last night, and we have been working with Graham over the past several weeks, I think he saw something happen yesterday with our subcommittee, a sign that members of council are willing to work together to make this become a reality. And so, last night, and certainly after working through several weeks, Mr. Rouston handed me a signed MOU. And this now represents that he's willing to fulfill the commitments of raising the $162.5 million through private sector funding, the commitment, and he knows this, that the construction will be a fixed price contract, and our hope is actually after PCL and VB Architects are finished, the price might even come under a little bit of $325. But if it doesn't, if in fact it's more, Mr. Rouston knows that we're capped in terms of our contribution, and that anything above $325 would have to be coming from the private sector. He also knows that there will be a commitment to guarantee, and Global Spectrum has told us the demand in the GTA, with the growth of the GTA, that there is enough demand to have a second facility in the GTA. And for those of you that haven't been involved in this year and a half long debate, this arena will work very similar to the Budweiser Centre in the City of London. It's an arena, by the way, that they had quite a bit of debate over, and they asked all of the same questions that our community asked. Who's going to come here? Who's going to rent it? How can we attract people to come to this arena? Well, the fact is that the Budweiser Centre has done wonders for the City of London. They have a very successful OHL team. They don't have an NHL team. They managed to attract a number of concerts and special events. They had the World Figure Skating Championships there earlier this year. So it works, and that's how this one will work without an NHL team. And Global Spectrum says that it will be an arena that will be successful because it sits within a population of 5 million people, growing to 7 million over the next 20 years. And so in doing so, and they believe there won't be an operating deficit, but in trying to again address the concerns that people have, they have made the commitment to guarantee any operating deficit, and that is part of the MOU. And I'm not going to go into other details of this because this MOU that Mr. Rouston has now signed has to be presented to council. So I have to tell you, between the MOU that we have from representatives of the development community and now the MOU from Mr. Rouston, this represents $275 million. That's 85% of the 325. And I just tell you that if our council continues in the spirit that I saw yesterday, that they want to be open-minded, they want to make sure that the taxpayer is not left holding the bag. I get all those things. And this is an MOU, and then we move forward to agreements. But if they approve these MOUs, I'm very confident that we'll be able to close the 15% that we need to move forward with this project. So this is, I think, an exciting moment. I thank Mr. Rouston for continuing to work with our community. I thank Markham Council. Let me tell you, I know sometimes people say, get back to doing your other work and worry about the things you were elected to do. Well, let me tell you something. Our council is one of the hardest working councils, and we have been working on a number of things. It was with great pride last night that finally we were able to reopen Main Street Market, and wait till you see it in the spring when those finishing touches will be put on. We've made it a very intimate village now with the changes that have been made. We just opened up a brand new Cornell Community Center. I'll tell you, it's one of the best in the country, adjacent to Markham Stouffville Hospital. People will be coming here from North America to see how a health facility and a community center works together to complete wellness in our community. We have the third largest investment in the Pan Am Games outside the city of Toronto and outside the city of Hamilton. So let me tell you folks, our council has been working on all the issues. They've put in the extra time to see this one through, and hopefully if they're willing to put a bit more time towards this project, we are going to see a shovel in the ground. We are going to see the GTA Center built in this community. So I thank you very much for coming out.